So good night, everyone. Let me take this opportunity to welcome you to the beautiful village of Castara and to the electoral district of Palatavia Lansumi Speyside. I believe one of the most enviable district in terms of beauty. Well, that is after Mason Hall, if I should say. We want to welcome you again to our another installment in our series of community conversations under the theme Tobago deserves better. And so at this time I want to invite you to stand as we have the opening prayer followed by the playing of the national anthem. Just bow your heads wherever you are. Eternal Father and our God, we want to thank you for your goodness and for your mercy to us. We thank you, O God, that you have been with us throughout the day and you've brought us here to meet together as the People's National Movement, to share a message of hope, a message of good governance. And we pray, God, that your Spirit will be with us even as we meet tonight. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you very much. Please be seated. You know, there has to be something special about this electoral district because I believe it's the only electoral district that we're going to have two meetings in the electoral district. One tonight in Castara and then Saturday night in Charlottesville. And that's because there is something unique in terms of its geographical makeup of this electoral district. And so we the People's National Movement, see it as being special and be able to meet with our constituents both on this side of the island. Well, you know, Charlottesville and Castara geographically is on the same side of the island. But we want to be able to meet with as much persons as possible. You know, when you look throughout this electoral district from Castara all the way to Delaford, you are going to recognize that the People's National Movement has done good service, excellent service to the people of this district. Whether it be the fishing facility on the bay in Castara or even this community center that we are currently seated in that was refurbished by the People's National Movement, and you go throughout Palatavia and you go through Lansumi, and you know, there's something that the PNM does outside of just infrastructure. It's about building legacies. And if you talk about building a legacy, you could speak to the Blue Food Festival in Lansumi, which is part of this district that continues to be one of the flagship festivals in the calendar of Tobago. Yeah. And so be it schools, community centers, festivals, people development, this district was not left behind by a People's National Movement administration time and time again. The work was put in, the people were taken care of, and the flag was flown high, not just for the PNM, but for this district and Tobago. And so again, we want to share with you that this is not your usual political meeting, but it is a conversation where we hear from you, where we hear from the members of this district, the members of the public. You ask your questions, not only to the political leader of the Tobago Council, but to your prospective candidate. This is your opportunity to hear from the standard bearer in this district what he intends to bring to the table to benefit you, the people of this district. And so at this time, I want you to put your hands together as we welcome to the stage the political leader of the Tobago Council of the People's National Movement, Mr. Ansel Dennis, and the prospective candidate for this electoral district, Mr. Maxlon Roberts. Put your hands together. And so, gentlemen, we want to invite you to speak to the people at this time. We want to invite the man who raised his hand and said he is willing to fly the PNM flag, to stand in defense of Tobago, to put Tobago first again. And so I want to invite at this time Mr. Maxlon Roberts to bring to us some opening remarks. Introduce yourself, tell us who you are, and share your vision for this district.
Castara. How are we feeling this evening? Nice, we're looking good. You know, I've been sitting and something dawned on me. I was very much intrigued when I looked at scriptures, and scripture teaches us that God often selects the persons who may not fit the bill by the normal person's standard to do great things. And scripture is filled with examples. David, in the story of David and Goliath, David was just a mere sheep herder. His brothers were the ones who actually were on the battlefield fighting. And he went to carry food for them. And we know how that ended up with David being the conqueror of Goliath. As well as when you look at Saul. If you all know scripture, Saul was a Christian killer. Saul persecuted those who went and preached the good news. And then God used him. God used him to be an advocate for the kingdom. And I'm merely giving this story to say that though I may not be the perfect fit, as some may say, because I haven't originated from the heart of this electoral district, I'm merely from the fringes. My roots are in the Dallaford part, and you know Dallaford shares a small portion. So I'm not in the heart like Charlottesville or Castara. It's interesting that God uses those who he seem least worthy by men, because he knows within their hearts they're destined for greatness. And I feel no different in this situation. And I am proud. I am filled with joy to be selected. And I want to acknowledge our political leader for being the visionary and the type of leader that he is, taking this team and bringing it together, regardless of our differences, regardless of whatever is before us. And I want to commend our leader for his foresight, for his vision. And to the people of this beautiful, and Mr. Hislop, it is the most beautiful electoral district. I can boast. My electoral district spans from Kings Bay to Castara. Everything in between there is beauty. I am here to serve you. I am here to serve the people of Castara, the people of Lansome, Bloody Bay, Palativere, Speyside, Charlottesville, and Dallaford. I am not here to serve myself. I am here wearing the helmet of humility, covered in a chest plate of compassion and a heart filled with the desire to serve the people of this electoral district illustriously, to give the people of this district the type of representation they deserve. Though my beginnings may be humble, it means that I've come from the ground up. I understand what it means to come from nothing and work, toil to be where I am. And that is what I offer to extend to you, the people of this district. Service that is filled with compassion, service that is filled with responsibility and commitment. And I can offer nothing less but my unwavering commitment to the beautiful district. So I am here, open, willing to engage in meaningful dialogue. And let's charter the way forward, because we all can agree that Tobago deserves better. And Tobago must be put first again.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Roberts. You know, willing to offer myself, rooted in service, and willing to put Tobago first again. Let's give Mr. Maxwell Roberts another round of applause. Man who understands the task that is before him, but is still willing and able to be used by the man above. And so at this time, I want to invite to share a few words to us, no stranger to the microphone, no stranger to the stage. The man who has held the Tobago Council of the PNM together, who stood up, who raised his hand and said, I will do. Mr. Ansel Dennis, the political leader of the Tobago Council of the PNM.
Thank you very much, Brother Hislop. Of course, let me set the timer so that I don't go beyond a reasonable time. Castara, good evening. It is a pleasure to be here, of course, in support of your candidate, Brother Maxwell Roberts. Now, this electoral district of Palativere, Lansome, Speyside, while it's a district that we did not win in the last 3 THA elections, we felt it necessary to have 2 meetings in this district. Based on the size of the district, we felt the need to have our first interaction here on the north side in the 3rd most beautiful village on the island. Of course, I was born in Buku, so Buku is number 1. And not just because I was born there, but in all fairness, Buku is the most beautiful community in Tobago. And I love the community of Charlottesville, so I will put Charlottesville at number 2. And I consider Castara as well to be one of the more beautiful communities on the island. So we are here in Castara this evening, and then in a few days' time we will go to Charlottesville. Sorry, Kwesi, but your district in my mind is not the most. It is beautiful. I have some roots there as well. But Buku is number 1. But it's a pleasure to be in Castara And this district, in my opinion, in my honest opinion, and I believe most of you here and across Tobago will share the same view, that this district is the most neglected of all the electoral districts across the island. And you in fact have the worst performing assemblyman as your electoral district representative. And I did not fly to get here, I had to drive. And therefore I noticed the poor state of the roads, and that situation exists throughout Tobago East. I cannot help also but recognize and acknowledge the neglect and the abandonment experienced by farmers in this district, a district that has a number of farmers in operation, whether it be in Charlottesville, whether it be in Speyside, whether it be in Delaford, right up the road in Bloody Bay and Lansome and those areas. Farmers have been severely neglected. And one will think that having a chief secretary from Speyside and having a deputy chief secretary from Tobago East as well, and a so-called Tobago East party being in power here in the Tobago House of Assembly, one would think that Tobago East and electoral districts like this one would have been in a far better position in terms of representation and development. And the sad reality is that nothing has happened in this electoral district since the PNM left office except for one project, and that is the Home of Blue Food, which, by the way, has not been completed. There was some last-minute work feverishly taking place leading up to the last Blue Food Festival. But since then, my understanding is that the facility is just there, incomplete and abandoned. And therefore, it was obviously a gimmick. It was obviously an attempt to give you, the people of this electoral district, the impression that something meaningful was being done on your behalf. But apart from the Home of Blue Food, the incomplete and abandoned Home of Blue Food, and one of the things you, the people in this district, will have to decide is what useful purpose that facility will serve outside of the Blue Food Festival. It's already there. I don't expect this administration to complete it. When we get back into office, we will complete it. And then we will discuss with you, the people of this community, Bloody Bay, Lansome, Palatavie, Castara, and other surrounding communities, how we will go forward to ensuring that that facility is fully utilized to the benefit of you, the people of this district, and Tobago by extension. And therefore, it leads me to the first topic I want to discuss, which is Tobago's tourism. And we know that in Castara, this community has been a beacon of hope for the tourism sector and a shining example of what we know as community tourism. And as you traverse this particular community and this part of Tobago, one cannot help but notice the natural pristine beauty. As you drive the road, as bad as it is, you can enjoy the pristine natural views where you would see the sea and you will see the natural flora as well in this part of the island. But apart from the natural beauty, we also have to acknowledge the warm hospitality of the people within this particular district and of course throughout Tobago by extension. So Castara is really a beautiful place. The people of Castara has demonstrated a certain kind of tenacity, a certain kind of commitment to ensuring that this thing called tourism and community tourism continues to thrive in this community. And I think every single community in Tobago, every other community, should really take a page from the book of Castara as it relates to community tourism. So tourism is extremely important. The reality is that since the PNM left office, tourism has declined and declined significantly. And of course, we had a pandemic that ravaged the tourism sector. And your PNM administration, we were the ones leading the island through this difficult pandemic period. And we embarked upon a process to develop a roadmap to recovery plan. And that plan was onerous yet simple, where it was about setting out strategies, programs, policies, and plans to set the island on a path to recovery following the pandemic. And one of the major sectors that we looked at was the tourism sector. And there were a lot of plans that we laid in place. We started discussions with airlines, and a lot of them were at that point in time committed to returning to Tobago. British Airways, Virgin Atlantic, Condor, another airline out of the Scandinavian region, and I think another airline also out of Europe. I can't remember the name at this point in time. We were also addressing the issue of customer service. The Tobago Tourism Agency Limited was in fact spearheading an island-wide customer service training program, not only targeting the tourism sector, not only targeting the staff and employees of private businesses, but we were also tackling that issue even in the public sector, in the Tobago House of Assembly, in the healthcare sector, and other sectors across the island. And the intention was to partner with a reputable customer service training agency of international repute. And we started that process. It was well on the way. We were having the discussions for flights. We were partnering with the central government to ensure that we get the airport and we get the marina and we get the Marriott. Of course, we attempted to get Sandals, and all of us know what happened with the Sandals project. But we were on our way to really building a more formidable and a more promising and prosperous tourism sector for Tobago. And I am sad to say to you this evening that when you voted out the PNM, you also voted out all those plans out of existence in the Tobago space. And nothing has transpired where those specific plans are concerned. And if we are to be honest with ourselves, I think we can walk away with the agreement that the tourism sector over the last 4 years has declined and it has been severely mismanaged by the current administration to the detriment of people in Castara, people in Paratobia, Lansome Speyside, and people throughout Tobago by extension. And we have to acknowledge that. So, how will we in the PNM address that when you return us to office? And you see, our plan first and foremost must involve restarting and revisiting those things that we had in train before that were discontinued by this administration. So customer service has to be a priority because it is something that we are suffering from, a lack of effective customer service. People complain about it. We have had bad press reports on it, even in international news, whether it is the reef boats in the Buku Marine Park or some of our taxi drivers, we must quickly improve our customer service on this island. And I can tell you that one of our first priorities when you return us to office is that we will revisit and restart immediately that island-wide customer service training thrust that we had in place when we were there. The other thing we will do is that we will enter into discussions with potential investors. Potential investors in terms of hotels. We need more hotels on the island. And there are some who will tell you that we should focus on eco-tourism, similar to what we have here in Castara. And eco-tourism is nice. It's one of the niches that Tobago has been tapping into for many, many years. But we have an opportunity where we can have two bites of the same cherry. In this part of Tobago, and I think it was the division that was led by 𝐂𝐲𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐿𝐴 at the time, the Division of Infrastructure, that pursued and got the very important man and biosphere designation, which of course is going to benefit us here in Tobago in many, many ways. But this part of Tobago can in fact be branded, and that is something that we will do. We will designate this part of the island as an eco-tourism region, and that is where the focus will be when it comes to tourism. Green, environmentally friendly and sustainable eco-tourism in this part of the island. So we're not going to be supporting any major big concrete hotels on this part of the island. However, in Tobago West, where it is more about the hustle and the bustle and the nightlife and the parties and the casinos and so on that side of the island, we can in fact pursue that kind of mass tourism situation where we can have a couple major hotel brands, where we can continue to facilitate and grow the kind of nightlife that you see happening in Crown Point and in some parts of Scarborough. So we don't have to focus on one. We don't have to run sandals, as some will suggest, because we don't need that kind of tourism. Absolutely ridiculous. We can designate this part of the island to focus on ecotourism and environmentally sustainable approaches to tourism because of the natural beauty and greenery, and again, based on that man and biosphere designation. And then other parts of the island, we can pursue the traditional approach. And that will be the PNM's approach to developing our tourism sector further. So we need a marina. Now, we can't build it ourselves based on the allocations that we're getting. We can't build a hotel ourselves for two reasons. One, again, based on the allocations we've been getting. And two, generally the government does not involve itself in the construction of hotels, right? That is normally left to the private sector. And therefore, we have to talk about public-private partnerships. How do we go out there and talk to potential investors and have serious conversations about them investing in Tobago to ensure that we get a marina somewhere in Southwest Tobago, to ensure that we get one or two more hotels, major hotel brands, that will improve our situation with marketing and that will automatically bring additional flights to Tobago. And if you doubt me that major hotels can't bring flights, talk to Ralph Gonzalez, who is all over the place boasting that his country, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, got the sandals that we in Tobago did not want. And what did that hotel do for that country? Immediately, they went from a few scrawny flights per month to several flights per week. New flights from American Airlines, new flights from United Airlines, JetBlue, Virgin Atlantic, British Airways, the airlines coming out of Europe. from the opening of Sandals, almost every week a new airline was flying into St. Vincent. And during the peak tourism season, the airport will be lined with jets, 737s, 747s, A320s, Airbus, Boeing, all the airlines you could think about, United, American, British Airways, Virgin Atlantic, JetBlue, all the airlines you could possibly think of that flies from Europe, United States, etc., are now interested or going into St. Vincent currently. And that picture changed for them significantly when they accepted and embraced the Sandals Resort. The second thing that happened is that 4 other major investors are making plans or have already finalized plans to build 4 more hotels in St. Vincent. That's what we missed out on. So when we get into office, we're not sending our Secretary of Tourism and our Chief Secretary just to attend a Tobago Day and fet and lime and have a nice time and talk to diaspora. We're not sending them out there just to attend conferences, right? We're not sending them out there in Grenada to talk about the promoting Carnival, and you have a panelist from Tobago playing, and the Assistant Secretary on TV telling people to go and sleep on the beach if it has no rooms. We're not going to be engaging in that foolishness. When we send our representatives out there, when I go out there as a Chief Secretary, or we send a Secretary of Tourism out there, it is to sit in boardrooms with serious people from serious organizations and serious companies with money about coming to invest in Tobago. So we're going to go and talk to the airlines. We're going to talk to the hotel operators. And the conversation will be, how can we get you to come to Tobago and invest in Tobago? The other people we're going to talk to are the cruise lines. And we're going to talk to the cruise lines about 2 things. And I'm letting some of the vision out tonight. Right? It's too late for them to copy it anyway. So we're going to talk to the cruise lines about the possibility of investing in a cruise ship facility for Tobago in Scarborough. Now, it could be a cruise ship terminal. That's one option, and we're still working it out. And a terminal will basically be a building with all the facilities in terms of processing the tourists when they come off the vessels, and also opportunities for shopping, duty-free shopping, etc. But I tend to believe that that part of Scarborough between the existing port, which we believe should be only for domestic travel on the domestic ferry services, but that area between the existing port and the Esplanade can lend itself to what we might call a cruise ship village. So cruise passengers come off the boat, they come through that area, they get processed, they get entertained, they could shop for local art and craft, they could shop for some of the brand name items, and then they could make their way down to the Esplanade. We have the transportation available for them who want to go on tours, who want to go through Scarborough, and so on. Right? We have to talk, because there are other models where cruise liners, Royal Caribbean, Carnival, etc., have invested in other destinations to help them develop their cruise facilities. And we can in fact position Tobago as a unique destination in this part of Tobago, because when you look at the cruise ship itineraries, you don't find many major cruise liners coming to this part of the Caribbean. Of course, a lot of them, I think Royal Caribbean, Carnival, and a couple of the other major ones like Norwegian, etc., They have some itineraries going into places like Aruba, Bonaire, Curaçao, etc. MSC, I think, goes to Grenada. I can't recall seeing a Royal Caribbean itinerary going into Grenada, right? But that is about the closest they come to Tobago. So we could position ourselves, and I think a Royal Caribbean vessel went to Trinidad, Port of Spain. It did not come to Tobago. Actually, I think one of the smaller vessels came to Tobago. Symphony of the Seas or Rhapsody of the Seas, or one of them came to Tobago a couple times, right? But the larger vessels, of course, don't necessarily come down this side. And in fact, we currently do not have the facilities to accommodate the larger cruise ship vessels. So we're not only going to be talking to them about having a cruise ship terminal or a cruise ship village, but we're also going to talk to them about the possibility of having an additional pier to provide berthing for between 2 to 4 more vessels when they come to Tobago. So these are the discussions we must have. It's about going out there, representing the island, selling the best of the island, having serious discussions with serious people with money to get them to invest in Tobago. And that is the only reason, or the primary reason, why secretaries and other politicians should leave here to go out and come back. When they go out, they must come back with something. Because over the last 4 years, $25 million was spent. And what have you benefited from those travels? Did we get a new airline? Did we get any commitment for any foreign direct investment? What did we benefit as an island from those travels? And the reality is, we benefited absolutely nothing. The Chief Secretary went to some conference in the United Kingdom some time ago, and he came back and told us he had 11 potential investors lined up, ready to invest in Tobago. When the minority leader asked him, well, who are these investors and what are they going to invest in? He talked about some non-disclosure agreement, and therefore he can't tell us who these investors are and what they're going to invest in. We in the PNM telling you from now who we're going to talk to and what we're going to ask them for and what we're hoping to achieve for you, the people of Tobago, as part of our vision for the development and progress of this island. So we also have to revisit the marina, because that in itself creates an additional sector within the tourism sector. And that is a major sector for any serious tourism destination. Barbados has a marina. St. Lucia has a marina. Grenada has a marina. Some of them even have more than one. We in Tobago are best positioned in terms of small Caribbean islands, where we hardly have hurricanes. Hurricanes always threatening to come. And most times they never come. I think the last serious one we had was well, after Flora, we had some serious damage from one called, was it Thomas? Yeah, I think it was Thomas was the last one that did some damage. Ivan did some damage too. Yeah, right. But by and large, we tend to avoid the serious repercussions of hurricanes. And therefore, it positions us in terms of insurance cost, in terms of the preference for big money people who own expensive vessels. They will prefer to have their vessels safe in Tobago than in Barbados or Jamaica or even Grenada. Because when they look at the history, they will realize that Tobago and Trinidad and Tobago tends to avoid the worst of the hurricane season. That is something we should be benefiting from. Who is out there representing us, talking to potential investors about having a marina? You know what they did? Dr. 𝐂𝐞𝐧𝐢𝐭𝐲, when he was Prime Minister, was this close to having the project started in Southwest Tobago. When NIDCO resumed the discussions that they started under the previous PNMTHA, Trevor James, supported by Farley Augustine, jumped up and said, we don't want no marina along there, we want it in Kings Bay. And in fact, we don't want all your help with building we own marina. You all heard anything about any marina in Tobago since then? Nothing. Right? So we need those kinds of investments on the island. The other thing I will talk about is a beautification trust. Now, I don't want you to leave here with the idea that we're going to just send people out there to pick up all the garbage around Tobago and cut all the grass, which needs cutting by the way. We have to acknowledge that over the last 4 years, the roads have been poorly maintained. In some cases, where you had a road before, half the roadway is now overgrown with bush. I saw that for myself driving, I think it was up, when you come out of Charlottesville to go back down into Lansome, that's where Hermitage, going through Hermitage. In some cases, you have some landslides like they were there 5 years ago, because within the landslides, you have vegetation and trees and shrubs growing in the landslide. So the landslide now have become a natural part of the landscape. No maintenance. Certain parts of the road falling away. And we have tourists coming to our island, driving on these roads, very unsafe, poorly lit, poorly maintained, potholes forevermore. Presenting a danger, not just to us as local people living here, but our visitors. And we have to be very thankful that we don't have more accidents on our roadways. Because by virtue of the potholes and the lack of maintenance alone and the poor lighting and the poor markings and so on, it makes driving in Tobago extremely difficult. And that is something we have to treat with. So what is this beautification trust? I want you to imagine imagine with me for a bit, leaving Crown Point Airport. You touch down in the airport, the current airport, and you're driving on that stretch of road where we like to call the strip now. And on each side of the strip, instead of the unkept sites that you see now, you see nice lighting on the pavement, nice plants on the pavement, whether we hang them from poles or we put them in flower spot. And you're going up the highway, the sides of the road properly landscaped, nice trees planted, and so on. And you decide you want to go across to Shervan and go to Grange Bay. And instead of the current situation at Grange Bay, where you have the wall falling into the sea, and you have an eyesore there, imagine an area that is properly landscaped, properly beautified, concrete pavers, greenery, plants, trees, and nice benches for you to sit and watch the sunset. And then you journey on to a place called that Heritage Park, Corland Heritage Park, nicely uplifted, properly landscaped, good surroundings so that you could go and sit and socialize with your family and so on. Same thing across at Rockley Bay in Lambo, where instead of when you drive through that location, instead of seeing rusty lamp poles and garbage on the side of the road, you have again a nice location, well beautified, well lit, concrete pavers, some greenery, some nice shrubs, and of course some lovely benches for you to sit. You have to imagine a clean, green, beautiful island that will have several locations for, first of all, Tobagonians. Because yes, we like to talk about tourists as if tourists living here. But we're not beautifying and uplifting Tobago and greening Tobago and cleaning Tobago just for tourists. We're doing it for ourselves first, so that our people here can enjoy that and live in that kind of environment. And of course, the tourists, when they visit, they will benefit from what we already enjoy as Tobago people. Right? And of course, the regulation of the tourism sector is something that we intend to confront head on. We cannot continue to have reef boats leaving our jetties overloaded without the necessary safety equipment, and of course people carrying on with all kinds of illegal, unsafe activities on those boats. Drinking, bareback, no uniforms, obscene language. Some of them have no clue. I remember back in the day when we went to the reef, the trip used to be at least 2 hours long, and you get a nice piece of education and information on the reef and the Nile pool and the corals and the fishes. Now it's vroom, 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 loud music. Reach out. You reach Nile pool. Drop the anchor. You might get to jump in the water for 5 to 10 minutes. After that, they hurry you back into the boat. Vroom, vroom, vroom again. Pace. Loud music. Weed smoke and cigarette smoke killing you. Bad word in your ears around your children. And you didn't learn one thing about the reef. Because for them, it's about the money. And the more trips they could get when the day comes, no matter how poor the service is, despite the lack of any education and information given about our beautiful marine park, once they could pull a trip and get it done in an hour, that is all that matters to them. Under the PNM, that will stop immediately. Regulation also will apply to our properties. Any island, any jurisdiction that is serious about tourism must ensure that we maintain standards. Standards especially in the accommodation. And we will ensure that we pursue a situation where every single property, from the biggest hotel to the smallest room in Castara as an Airbnb, must be registered, must be inspected on a yearly basis to ensure that they maintain the standards that are expected of a Tobago tourism accommodation, which must become the highest standard in the country, if not the region. And that is only part of what we're talking about when we talk about regulating the tourism sector. It's about safety, it's about quality assurance, it's about standards, and it's about ensuring our tourists, whether local, domestic, or international, have the best experience. That is how you build a tourism sector. So, I will stop here for now. My watch has been going off, which tells me that I've been speaking to you for about half an hour. So I will stop here for now, and hopefully as we go through this discussion, we could talk a bit about agriculture as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dennis. A lot of food for thought, a lot of new information coming out to us, especially about the tourism sector, something to look forward to when the People's National Movement is returned to office. Now, this is your time. This is your time to share your concerns, ask your questions, share your suggestions. There is a microphone available, and you can make your way to the mic. It is your choice whether you give your personal information, your name and so on, to ask your question.
One thing I forgot to mention, and I think it is important enough to mention, is that the next PNMTHA will not sit on our hands and just continue to complain about Caribbean Airlines and flights to Tobago, especially during peak periods like Carnival especially. Now, by the way, in case you didn't know, a second Carnival for Tobago was in fact the brainchild of the previous PNM administration. And it is perhaps the only thing that we started that they followed through on. Everything else they destroyed and discontinued. They destroyed TATCO, they destroyed TPAC, they discontinued all the projects, all the programs that I mentioned that we started in the tourism sector, agriculture sector, etc. But one of the things we are going to talk to the cruise lines about is the possibility of having an arrangement where we can charter cruise ships, good-sized cruise ships, to be part of our Carnival experience. And I'll tell you how it can work. We talk to the cruise ships or the cruise line. You can't talk to a ship, you have to talk to the company. And we say to them, look, we want to charter one of your vessels because we believe we can sell an experience where we get that vessel to come to Port of Spain. And that vessel will board in Port of Spain. People will embark the vessel in Port of Spain. And they will come to Tobago the Thursday before the Carnival, because the Carnival is usually Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Well, mainly Saturday and Sunday, but we have some activities all week. It will come to Tobago from the Thursday evening. It will dock in the port. It will have a home in the port right in Scarborough for the duration of the Carnival. Whether it be a 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 capacity vessel, we try as best as possible in partnership with the cruise company to sell all the spaces, all the beds on that vessel. We get it to Tobago. Of course, people will pay directly for it. Get it to Tobago. It stays in Tobago. They come off the cruise ship. They go there fit. They go back on the cruise ship, eat, sleep. They come off the next day, do what they want to do, go on next fit, go on a tour, go on the beach, do whatever. The island is theirs for the entire duration. They go back on the ship, they eat and they sleep, and so on, for the entire period. Now what that does, it allows us to bring 2, 3, 4,000, how much ever we believe we could sell additional people from Trinidad without them having to purchase seats on the air bridge or purchase seats on the ferry. And of course, you're going to target a certain amount of people that could pay for that, because that is going to cost, depending on the cruise line you get to come, that is going to cost somewhere between 1,000 to 2,000 per night, or even more, right? And of course, you're also treating with an accommodation problem, because those people don't have to look for anywhere to stay. They're staying on the vessel. They're eating on the vessel. They have access to the vessel. That's their home for the duration, right? And in addition to that, we can also look at the possibility of the THA talking to airline companies who are willing to charter additional flights outside of Caribbean Airlines. And of course, that will come most likely at the full price. We in the THA don't have to get involved in subsidizing that. That's between the individuals who want to come and the airline, whoever we're chartering the plane from. Now, of course, we're going to have to find ways to ensure that we manage the system through Caribbean Airlines, so that you don't have a situation where people who want to travel and who may not be necessarily involved in the Carnival situation are not disadvantaged during that period. And there are several ways we can do that. Some people suggest we do some peak period seeds and we increase the price for that period. There are several ways in which we could treat with that. We discuss it and come up with the best approach. But the main thing I want to get across is that we will not just sit and complain about CAL when the PNM in office, Hackett and Farley and Boris were prepared to cost the PNM. Now that the UNC in office for the last carnival, they were about praying. So they moved from cussing to praying. We will not be cussing. We will not be, well, we will pray generally, but we wouldn't pray for flights to come. We will be getting up. We will be going out there. We will be having discussions with people who have assets, whether it be cruise ships and planes, to put experiences in place to bring more people to destination Tobago. So, October Carnival, let me finish. October Carnival 2026, under the PNM, you can look forward to your Carnival cruise experience.
Thank you, Mr. Dennis. So we're gonna jump right into some questions. We have a couple questions online, but if you want to go to the microphone, you can. But in the meantime, this one is for prospective candidate for the electoral district. And I think it's right up his alley. It says, as a farmer yourself, what are some of the challenges you have faced? And if given the opportunity, how would you address these issues in this specific electoral district?
So I thank you for that. I'm going to that first, and then I guess I'll take Mr. Archer for that question. Traversing this district, a number of challenges, and I'll give you an idea of one experience I had, because I was right here a few weeks ago having a meeting with the tourism-based body that really manages tourism across here. And there was a young man who does goat cheese, and exports. He also has it probably on the local shelves. And his challenge was the usual cry of most farmers, that reliability or consistency, the ability to continue to get the milk from the local producers to keep his business going. Right? And it is critical in order to address any issue, whether it be in farming, whether it be in tourism, as area reps and assemblymen, we must understand our role and function. Because I think that's an area that we tend to miss. As an area representative, you have actually 3 roles and functions. You have an administrative role, you have a legislative role, and you have an area representative role. So when I heard the secretary saying she had challenges being as much on the ground as it's clearly because she didn't understand her role and function. You didn't understand your assignment. And I say this to say, once you exercise your responsibility well, you will ensure that the legislations, the policy are put in place to ensure that the people who need the assistance the most get the help. So that those farmers, if we don't have a policy that is geared towards developing farmers, looking at access roads, which is one of the biggest challenges, looking at consistency in production, whether it be in livestock or in crops. And we don't have a general policy that is guiding us, then we're just hitting and missing. And farmers will continue to have those challenges. So if we don't have a policy that says, right, that we recognize there's a market for this product, goat cheese, what are we putting in place? What are we doing? And we have to first develop the policy. And because I was a part of the committee that was building out the manifesto for the blue economy, there are a number of policies, positions, and strategic decisions that would be placed in that, and I'm sure when the time presents itself, you'll see what the manifesto looks like, and you'll see how we intend to treat with those kinds of problems. So rest assured, any situation, particularly in the agri-sector, will be resolved because we in the PNM understands our responsibility. We first know that we must put the policy in place. Then, having that administrative function, we know that we can't do it alone. And we must have that good working relationship with the administrative part of the thing. Because we can come with our big plans. And you ain't good with the administrative part, because there is the political side and then there's the administrative side. And you get nothing done. But because we are fully aware of our roles and responsibility, bet your bottom dollar that the issues that the farmers are facing, whether it be access roads, lack of consistent supply, cost of production is one of the biggest factors. And again, that would be driven by policy decisions that we've taken. All of those problems will be resolved.
We take one from the floor.
Good evening to the audience. Should I identify myself? Yes. Mr. Archer is the name. I sat there and I listened to the political leader and the candidate. Hearing this thing that this village is tourism, I want the candidate to give us some insight of his plans, where tourism is concerned, where the tourist is concerned in this village. That is one. Two, Tobago have a problem with TITCO. Or TATCO, whatever it is. Thanks for the correction. No, I want to come down the road. No, me make us something. I just bear with me. I want to know what is your plan. As somebody who know about agriculture, what is your plan for that place in Shore Park? I want you to explain it. Take a time and explain that for us, please. This is not for the political leader. The questions are for you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Archer, I appreciate that question. Firstly, in terms of the tourism product, and the political leader enunciated on it so well when he mentioned that Castara prides itself on what is referred to as community-based tourism. And in that meeting that we had, Mr. Taylor, who is the head of that, made a very an important point. He indicated that presently the room stock in Castara is 150. If we didn't know, the room stock when they pool it together is roughly 150 rooms. And what they found, or what they find happening, is those rooms are always filled because when people visit and leave, they rebook one time. So you have a high revisitorship, and they're presently strapped for rooms. So we, and as indicated again, it has to come from policy decisions. We would ensure that we provide the necessary support, whatever is required, particularly to the people within this district, because we know that Airbnb is the going thing, to help them to add to their room stock through that Airbnb process. And we will work to ensure that those room stock are moved from 150 to 300 rooms minimum. Because we understand how important that community-based tourism drive and how this community in particular prides itself in that area. So we must provide the support needed for the homeowners to want to improve the present room stock that they have. And I'm glad when the chief indicated that policy to ensure that we look at the quality of the standards, lift the standard, and provide the necessary incentives to encourage persons to add to the room stock so that that room stock can move from where it is at 150 and exhaustive to minimum of 300 rooms. So that is definitely a key area that the persons in this area is looking forward to. And the second question in terms of TADCO, and it hurts me to see where TADCO is now, because it's actually competing, well, I really don't know what they're doing now, but they're competing with the farmers. I am a beneficiary of supplying TADCO from under the previous arrangement. When we were in charge and we was responsible for building out TADCO, I as a farmer looked forward weekly to going to TADCO, dropping off my goods, coming back the following week, collecting my check and dropping off another set of goods, and the sector was booming. Farmers were actually feeling as though they're part of the thing, because there is some place that you can go and your commodities is absorbed, which is one of the biggest challenges that we have as producers on the island. It is very difficult. You have to really understand how the dynamics of agriculture, because you could end up in a situation where you have a lot of goods on your hands and it goes to waste because you didn't do your market analysis. Trinidad has sending up a lot of its commodities and they're competing with you, and we can never compete with the producers in Trinidad, never, because they have advantages, economy of scale advantages that we don't have. But TADCO represented that barrier, that area that allowed us to be able to produce abundant, and there was a place that our goods could be absorbed, and we were paid reasonable and on time. And I will ensure that TADCO returns to that. Not just that with TADCO, to take it a notch up. Having a meeting with the Tourism Association, the hoteliers on the island, they indicated a similar challenge in terms of the inability to have consistent supply of local produce. And their challenge is that one week we have, 1 week we don't, and they have to now depend on Trinidad because they can't, they have to be consistent. Now, TADCO must be the entity that represents the conduit between the farmers and the hoteliers. So the hoteliers has that direct link to TADCO. So TADCO is absorbing. TADCO did all this work. The division is functioning well. Is right. The division, I repeat that, the division is doing what it's supposed to be doing. So farmers are producing. Now TADCO is absorbing. And these tourism, all the hoteliers know exactly where they have that relationship. They don't have to necessarily go directly to a farmer here, there, and everywhere. They are liaising with TADCO. And they can have their goods through that arrangement. And those are the kind of arrangements that are going to be put in place.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. What is your vision for this district? And one thing you would like to see achieved or implemented if elected?
I like the district because the district is big and the district has so much. If I just to add, and all of this is coming from conversations that I would have had with the different stakeholders in different areas of the district. In Charleville, for instance, Charleville is eager to reclaim its status as one of the key tourism areas within the district, right? And they were part of the meeting that we had with Castara. And what I love about what Castara is doing, and I was wondering if the political leader was in the meeting, because what the team in Castara has done is come to the people of Castara. They came to us in Louisville because Louisville being the village council and all of that, and is giving us guidance in terms of how we can build our tourism product based on what we have. And they were very instrumental in pointing out areas that we couldn't see that we should capitalize on. So for instance, in that area of that Louisville, Dallaford area, agrotourism. They said, you all don't know what you all have. When you traverse that area, you can see that is what it's known for. And you can now capitalize on that. So, and Charlottesville, the heritage, the heritage product that is offered, the beauty. I would like to see the marine space being regulated in Charlottesville so that now persons don't only have to go to Frankie Tours and to go to No Man's Land and all of that. You can come to Charlottesville and get a glass bottom boat ride, going to Pirates Bay, going to Lovers Bay, and embracing the reefs out there. In Speyside, we have the brain coral, and all of that. So for some reason, I could recall, we used to go Speyside and go on glass bottom boats. I don't know what is the situation with that. But some of that can come back to the east, and I know Charlottesville is eager to have its port and reclaim that beacon of tourism. The project I would love to see, one of the projects I would love to see is in Palatavere, the fishing facility in Palatavere that was abandoned. I heard they restarted it. I can't understand how a simple fishing facility could have a phase 2 and a phase 1, and you have 2 different contractors. Something by itself. I want to know if they got the environmental clearance to go ahead, but that's something else. But the fishing facility in Charlottesville should really be a fishing port. And I know it's within our manifesto, because I was part of the committee that contributed to that. And strange enough, in the meeting we had a few weeks ago right here, one of the gentlemen was saying, listen, there are so many fishing facilities already. We need a fishing facility that is of international standard, that has HACCP approval. And the fishing port, and I will call it what it should be in Palatavere, where the fishermen could pull up alongside a port and get fuel for their boats. They don't have to be taking jog, going out to Roxborough, swimming back to the boat to get the fuel, to use the fuel. A port that allows for that. A port that is of international standards, so all the fishing facilities around Tobago can now bring their fish to that port. And from there, the fish can be exported so that we can earn foreign exchange. And that is one of the projects I would love to see. This is where the vision has to be if we're moving forward as a district. And this electoral district has so much untapped potential. And the intention is to ensure that this district brings out all of that potential. So that fishing port in Palatavere, not only doing there, but something that is of international standards. Just to name a few.
Thank you. Political leader.
Just to expand, I'm happy you mentioned this idea of the fishing port. And it's not port, it's ports. Right? Because we have to transform Tobago's fisheries and our fishing sector. And if we're serious about commercializing fishing, then we have to go beyond just the pirogues. And I remember coming right here in Castara to visit some farmers. And I had the opportunity to visit an agro-processor. I think his operation is on some hill up in the back there, if my sense of location is correct. Actually, no, I think you have to go up in the housing scheme, go all the way down to the end somewhere there, and they're on top some hill there. But talking to one of them recently, they told me that they had to cease operation. You know why? They can't find fish. And I remember when I visited them about 5 years ago, they told me that they were sourcing fish from Trinidad. They had to buy fish from Trinidad to process, to smoke, to salt, and to make fish ham and whatever else they were producing to place in the supermarket shelves in Tobago. Why should fish processors and agro-processors in Tobago be sourcing fish from Trinidad? So here's what, that same 𝐶𝐴𝐿 company is going to be given 4 critical mandates to execute in the 4 years, the next 4 years. Number 1 will be to source a location in Trinidad to be used as a marketing hub where we can transport goods produced in Tobago to that location in Trinidad, and it will be a distribution point for any Trinidad consumer, whether it be supermarkets, other producers, etc., to purchase Tobago products wholesale. So in other words, we are tapping into the 1.4 million market in Trinidad. And of course, we're going to brand those items. We're gonna brand those items to be grown. Right? The other responsibility that 𝐶𝐴𝐿 will have is to restart and complete that abandoned agro-processing factory in Goldsboro. Right? The third responsibility 𝐶𝐴𝐿 will have is to source 5 commercial fishing vessels and to enter into cooperative or some other business arrangements with 5 fishing communities in Tobago to have those vessels managed and operated by those communities, and they will pay back 𝐶𝐴𝐿 over a period of time. And the intention behind that is to commercialize Tobago's fishing sector. So yes, we're going to have the 3 ports, one in Palatavere, one in Scarborough, and the other is likely to be at Plymouth. Now there's a challenge with the land in that jetty area, right? I remember as Chief Secretary, I engaged in some discussions with a fellow called Gillette, and there were some unique challenges to navigate, but it's not insurmountable. So we're going to look at that again, and we want to develop 3 fishing ports. And the reason we're calling them ports is because they must be standalone facilities that will be able to accommodate large fishing vessels, just like the 5 we're going to purchase and enter into arrangements with 5 fishing communities. They must have adequate cold storage to store an entire week's or 2 weeks catch at the facility. So it's not about coming in and having to rush. If you come in late in the night, you have to rush to run down in Tongue by Tico, so have to store anything there. Those ports will have adequate cold storage facilities. They will have fueling facilities, not only for the commercial vessels, but any vessel, pirogues, yachts, tournament boats who come into Tobago for fish tournaments, which they will come now once we establish those facilities. Because one of the reasons we lost some of those major fishing tournaments that we used to have in Tobago, as nice as the fishing is, as nice as the people is, the ability to easily refuel the vessels was a problem. We're going to fix that, and by fixing that, those tournaments, which is another part of your tourism sector, will return to Tobago. Right? So those ports will have, again, fueling, cold storage, and they will be able to accommodate the larger vessels. And that is how we're going to commercialize Tobago's fishing sector. We're going to challenge the fishermen. In 5 communities we will start with the possibility of expanding to others. We're going to challenge them to come together, form cooperatives, form business entities, whether companies or whatever, manage the boats, staff the boats, or the ships, or whatever you want to call them, fish the boats consistently. And it's not like your period where you go out 6 in the morning and you come back 6 in the evening. When you leave tonight, you ain't coming back until 2 weeks after, right? And we want you to come back with tuna, high quality. Where is the good tuna again? The yellowfin tuna or the bluefin tuna. We want you to come back with quality fish, some of which we can sell fresh locally to our restaurants, our hotels, etc. Some which can be passed on to our agro-processors, just like the one up the hill who couldn't find fish at all and had to shut down, so he could get quality fish to process and export, whether he wants to export and sell them for himself, or he wants to enter into an arrangement with TADCO to take them from him at wholesale price, and then TADCO will have the responsibility of taking it into the Trinidad market, the excess that is, which we do consume in Tobago, and he will also have the responsibility to explore regional and international markets. And the fourth very important responsibility that TADCO will have is a complete overhaul of the cold storage facilities at Shore Park.
I thought you had more to say there politically there. You caught me off guard, man.
Yeah, I was
So we're wrapping up shortly, but there's one question I believe that both gentlemen can answer. It says, what is your plan for sustainable development in Lansfomé, especially the fact that it is a small community with limited commercial activity? And Mr. Roberts, you are you will be responsible for what is the most rural electoral district on the island. So what is your plan for sustainable development, especially in Lansfomé?
Right, thanks so much for the question again. There is the Blue Food Initiative. Some people indicate that the idea and the concept originated from Lansfomé, right? Originated. And what they have found is that they feel as though they have lost it because festivals or whoever has now taken it over. And the people were back the rights to what they created. Right. So sustainability would require continuous activities that keeps person wanting to visit the area. Right? So we must get the people involved. And as I was indicating earlier, the representation function of an assemblyman is going to be critical. And because persons don't understand the roles and function and how critical the representation part is, it means that they lose touch with the ground. And they must maintain that connection to the ground. And if the persons in Lansfomé are feeling left out, it means then that you must empower the community. You have to empower the community so that if you are not there, there's a direct connection between you and them. And whether it be in construction, whether it be in agriculture, because we know they thrive on agriculture. But we have to lend that level of support and allow the community to feel as they are part of the whole. And it starts with communication. You go to the people of Lansing, you hear what their needs are, and you do your best to deliver in that regard. The idea of the, you ever heard of the platinum water? And the idea of the platinum water? That is something that needs to be revisited, right? That needs to be revisited so that it's an opportunity, and the people within the area can benefit from something like that. So it would be critical to maintain that relationship, be on the ground, let the community feel as though they are part of the whole. And it starts with communication. It starts with reaching the community where they are, hearing what their needs are, and delivering on the needs of the people.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts.
Yeah.
Politically, you want to jump in on this one?
I mean, yeah, what you want.
Oh, my apologies. Go ahead, sir.
Good night, everybody.
Good evening.
My name is Edison Bob. I'm listening to everything what the political leaders saying and the representative tonight. Something I don't want to sound so thing, but what I want to get from the political leader is that what about the small business men who may want to get piece of the action because this action bigger and I want to fall in. So what about bringing some of them small businessmen in, some of them talk and say, listen, this is where we are about. Listen, I want to get you all on board and we have to fix this thing. We get certain ideas. I want to hear what we're going to be saying, and because going forward for the next 4 years, beautification, this is not that hit me and is a thing I know about. So you get some small businessmen, we could get good ideas. We want to bring them into the fold so they could be a part of this action.
Yes.
Here we're talking about sustainability. We could get into the Alabama Scotch to help the situation and bring it on the market. You know what I mean?
Was it?
A taste. Alabama Scotch.
I wanted to go there, but I was Bushong. Bye-bye.
I go Bushong. But but is that still illegal, and why? Do answer that. Right now, you made a point about a lot of action, and yes, under the next PNM administration, the action will be returning to Tobago, because for the last 5 years, the action left Tobago and went to Trinidad. So there will be a lot of opportunities for small contractors, small businesses, etc. Because Tobago can afford to spend, the THA can afford to spend on the development side at least $500 million per year. If that development budget is managed properly, then that can be a significant driver of economic activity on the island of Tobago. And you add tourism to that, and you add the agriculture sector to that, and you add the possibility of exploring clean renewable energy right here in Tobago to that. And hopefully, if those sectors that I just mentioned could overtake the THA in terms of contribution to GDP, then you could imagine this place. We go be enjoying ourselves here, like how Choi Charles said, said in that video when he was talking about the nonsense Farley doing. So $500 million per year, what will that do? One, your agriculture access road program. That program has been stopped for the last 4 years. That's why farmers are calling me, and I'm going to visit another farmer later this week to complain about roads. That when the PNM was there, they could have accessed the farms because the roads were being maintained. Those access roads were always in an acceptable state that they could have gone there even with normal cars. Now to get to some of those places, if you don't own a 4x4, you have to close up shop. $20 million per year access roads, we're going to return that, and that entire program will be executed strictly by small Tobago contractors. A couple nights ago, I spoke about the community-based infrastructural development program, where the Secretary of the former Secretary of Infrastructure, perhaps the next Secretary of Infrastructure, right? We executed that project, and the idea behind that was to utilize the contractors in the communities to fix the issues in their communities, which created employment in the communities and uplifted a lot of new contractors and new businessmen in the communities. The initial program was $25 million a year. We're going to increase that to $50 million a year. Right? I wouldn't talk about the home improvement program right now because we're going to restructure that in a major way, and I'm leaving that particular one for 2 weeks or so before the election. And we're going to tell you all how we are going to restructure and remodel that entire home improvement program. And the idea behind it is that every Tobagonian must live comfortably. No Tobagonian must have a leaking roof. No Tobagonian must have rotten floorboards that they could fall through. No Tobagonian must be using an outhouse. And we will tell you how we are going to do that, how we will restructure the program to ensure that every Tobagonian living in those circumstances, we will put an end to that within our first 4 years back in office.
Excellent.
Right? And of course, your bigger items, your sporting facilities that we're going to build, the tourism facilities that we're going to build, the abandoned projects that we have to complete, all of that will be part of your development spend. The recreation grounds that still need to be lighted, where we still need to install pavilions, the international cricket facility that we need, the indoor sporting facilities, the new roads that we need to build, the Friendship Road that we're going to need to build over because it ain't built properly. All of that is part of your development spend. And the last thing I will mention, that island-wide beautification thrust, that is not a CPEP and URP thing. That is a serious, intricate attempt to transform, well, not even an attempt, a plan to transform the face of Tobago. And within that, we need to have, and I'm putting Tobagonians on notice, we need to have serious and capable landscapers. And it will not be a public project. It will be driven by the private sector. We will hire the contractors, we will phase the projects, and we will give people different phases to execute. And the spend on that is expected to be in excess in excess of $50 million in the first 2 years. And the final thing I will say is that all of that, everything that I just mentioned there, I'm not sure if you checked it, but it's over $300 million in work. You all remember that $300 million figure? All of it, everything that I just mentioned there, can and will be done. And don't let anybody fool you about any procurement legislation and that people will carry the THE to court if we lock out contractors from outside of Tobago. The procurement legislation allows you to protect local industry and to guarantee local content. And we will do just that to ensure that all those projects that I just described there, all of that spend will go to Tobago contractors. And they will employ Tobagonians. And we want that when they make the money, that they will reinvest the money right back in Tobago. That's how you build an economy, especially when the THE is right now the main player. And we're going to try to change that. We're going to try to improve tourism, improve agriculture, with a view that at some point, those sectors, those other sectors, must surpass the government's contribution to Tobago's GDP. And then when you hear we achieve that, only then can we say that Tobago is the greatest little island on the planet. Well, we could say that too.
Ladies and gentlemen, the conversation has been what I would consider riveting. But we have to wrap it up at this time, and so I want to give the prospective candidate for the electoral district of Palatine and Speyside a few minutes to give his closing remarks, and then he will be followed by the political leader of the Tobago Council.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to say to this illustrious electoral district, and I would like to draw an analogy. I like to draw an analogy when I'm making a point. For the men in the room, have you ever seen like this, a really attractive woman? Very attractive, beautiful one, lot of potential, greatness. And then when you look, you see a kind of stupid man with the woman, and you wonder to yourself, but how that happen? how that happen? All right? This electoral district represents a beautiful woman, beaming with potential, beaming with opportunities to birth great things. But unfortunately, you have a man who can't see you, who cannot see your beauty or your potential. For whatever reason, I am here to tell you that I see you. I see your potential. I see your greatness. I see what you can become, because you epitomize what I will consider the heartbeat of Tobago. Beauty waiting to erupt. And like in that picture that we use for the heritage, and we say she becomes more beautiful every day, that slogan, that is what I see when I see this electoral district. So you have a choice to make. You can continue to choose a man who cannot see you. Mr. Archer, I don't have courthouse closed. But choose one who sees your true potential, who is willing to work with you to ensure that you reveal your true beauty. As I indicated earlier, I may not come from the heart of districtive, but I've come to realize that some of the best assemblymen were never from their districts, were never from the heart of their districts. Everybody know Mr. Hilton working Sandy. He was never from Roxborough, guy. Mr. Dennis is I don't think he resides in his district, and he's the best for Buku Mount Pleasant. Tracy Davidson Celestine, who once was the representative for this district, was from the fringe of the district, like myself. So sometimes when you're so close, you can't see. You know, we have a saying, familiarity breeds contempt. When you're so close, you can't see, and it takes somebody who's on the outside looking in to see what is required. And this is all that I ask, that I come to you, as I indicated earlier, wearing the helmet of humility, a breastplate of compassion, and a heart filled with desire to serve and integrity. And I offer myself to serve you. Not me, but to serve you. Serve the people of Castara, the people of Palatavere, Lansome, Bloody Bay, Speyside, Charlottesville, and Alford, and Tobago by extension. Because you, this illustrious electoral district, deserves better. Tobago deserves better. And it is time that this district be put first. Let us put Tobago first again. I thank you.
So he spoke about this district being a beautiful woman, abused, ignored, and abandoned by an unfaithful man. And all I want to say to this district is do horn the man, divorce him. A full and complete revocation of the marriage. Because you have waiting to serve you and waiting to breathe new life into this district. And I'm particularly confident that when it comes to agriculture, which is another very important sector to this district, we have a lot of unproductive, very fertile agricultural lands throughout this district. A lot of it under the control of the state. Lansome, just recently they pushed down some farmers, bulldozed them to create parking for Blue Food without compensation. So you have productive lands in Lansome, Palatavere, Bloody Bay, Charlottesville, and even in Speyside, a lot of it under the control of the Tobago House of Assembly. And you can look forward to the next PNM administration ensuring that we develop some of those lands and introduce them into our productive agricultural assets that you, the people in this district, will surely benefit from. Of course, your tourism sector is very, very vibrant, especially compared to other parts of Tobago, but a lot more can be done. Tobago is very far from realizing its fullest tourism potential. And this district, whether it be Charlottesville, Castara, Lansome, or Palatavere, will of course be an integral part of that as we serve our visitors and we ensure that they keep coming and coming again and again. So, I am happy to be here this evening to support your candidate, and I hope that the people of this district will make the right choice, that they will accept the fact that they have been last, or you have been last for the last 4 years, and that you will put yourself, that you will put Tobago first again by supporting Maxlon Roberts and supporting the People's National Movement. Thank you very much.
So, once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all very much for being such a wonderful audience. See you on Thursday at the Calder Hall Multipurpose Facility, and then we make our way to Charlottesville on Saturday evening. Remember to put Tobago first again. Tobago definitely deserves better. Have a wonderful night, and everyone get home safe.